Welcome to Shamrock Reddit Stories, where a group of entitled partiers think it's okay to park in OP's driveway and block his access without consequences. This one's from Indu/R-Clear, and it's called I Demand the Apartment I Didn't Apply For. Give it to me! Now, I deal with entitled people all day, every day. However, this guy takes the cake of my most recent interactions. I am an apartment manager of a highly sought-after community in my city. Everyone wants to live where I work. Our availability is very limited. This male Karen, we'll call him Kevin, came in as a walk-in a week after his initial appointment where he chose not to apply, since he wanted to see what else was out there. Cool. Happens every day. No problem. Well, everything was going great. He was loving our property, talking about how happy he was and how he was ready to apply. Great. As soon as I confirmed what he was looking for and then kindly let him know that option was no longer available, he flipped the switch. Kevin put on his Karen face. I was misled about your availability. I should have been warned when the last apartment was leased. Blah, blah, blah. I again kindly explained to him that we cannot reserve anything available for people who don't actually submit an application. As is, that's the way it works. First come to apply, first served. I tried to give him other options that were very comparable in price to what he was originally interested in, especially for the extra space he would get. However, to him, that is unacceptable. You are using bait and switch techniques on me, and I want what I was promised. Well, sir, nothing was promised. We only told you what was available when you came in a week ago. People have applied since. Kevin proceeded to go full butthole, which started with talking down to me about how he knows about leasing and I am not doing my job. When that didn't work on me, he proceeded to yell and cuss at me to the point that I put on my full customer service face and told him if he didn't calm down, I would need him to leave or I would contact the police to escort him out of the office. Kevin pouted himself all the way home and wrote a really nasty review about our community online with my new favorite compliment that I am ridiculously condescending and should never hold a customer-facing job. It made my day, honestly. Luckily, my company has its employees' backs and takes bad reviews with a grain of salt. You know, I really don't have any comment about this story. Some stories just speak for themselves. This one's from a random European, and it's called Karen Screams at Me for Not Being Paid for Volunteering. A little backstory. That one's for you, B-boy. I am recently turning 15 years old, and I am planning on buying myself a PS5. My mother told me I could pay $250 and she will pay the rest. So I got a job that invites people to volunteer for certain services. There is one particular work day that I'll never forget. It started like any other day. I was sitting at my desk while waiting for people to come sign a piece of paper, select their volunteering service, and get going. The usual. A few hours later, a woman approaches me. She had blonde hair and that typical Karen haircut. She told me that she was done doing her volunteering service. I don't remember exactly what her service was, but apparently it was something to do with old people. She said to me, "Okay, I'm done. Where do I get my paycheck?" I looked at her, confused, and at first thought she was joking, but she looked serious. I kindly told her, ma'am, you don't get paid for volunteering services." She exclaimed, "What? This is absurd. I just touched old people for the whole day and I don't get paid?" I kindly told her to calm down and to stop making a scene and disrupting the line. She, of course, told me to call my manager. The manager came, said the same thing I did. The Karen said, "I'm gonna sue your company for scamming your volunteers." As a matter of fact, when you sign the piece of paper, it explains that you do not get paid. My manager just sighs and goes back to his office. A few minutes later, another woman who looked similar to the Karen approached. She excused her little sister for behaving that way. I never heard from the both of them again, and no charges were made. Could somebody please tell Karen to Google the word volunteering or volunteer? Thank you. This one's from Snoop Ickles, 1731. Or is it Snoop Ickles, 1731? Anyway, and it's called Entitled Partygoer Blocks Driveway and Gets Due Justice. When I was younger and still living with my parents, we stayed in a town that had an annual weekend-long music festival at the local high school. It attracted about 100,000 people over the weekend, so you can imagine the nightmare it created with parking. There would be a bunch of inconsiderate idiots every year, but people would mostly be fairly considerate. We would put up signs and banners on our sidewalk grass that said no parking, and people would ignore it. We would deflate tires, but that would be the end of it, usually. Until this one time. We got home on the Saturday morning after taking a trip to the grocery store to find that someone has parked in our driveway, like right in the driveway, blocking our access. You have to be dumb and blind and ignorant to not know it's a driveway. We can't get in and no one inside can get out. We also had a sign on the gate saying no parking. We stood idling in the street for about 15 minutes until I decided, screw it. I called a towing company. They were there within 10 minutes as they had a unit on the corner about 2 blocks down. They hooked the car up and cleared our driveway. We stuck the tow note to the gate so the owner can find it and just about forgot about it until around midnight. We were awakened by a racket outside and someone sounding really pissed off. My dad and I walked out to find the owner of the car and 3 to 4 other people outside kicking our post box, trying to pull our gate off the rail and screaming obscenities when they saw us. My dad was armed, but I had pepper spray and a taser with me. One guy tried to jump the fence and my dad warned him not to. They were just screaming that they were going to F us up for having their car towed. My mom contacted our security company while my dad and I stood outside. One guy managed to break out a piece of the fencing and came inside. I promptly gave him a solid spray of mace right in the face. He came swinging, so I tased him and he went down like a sack of potatoes. Funniest was when he pissed himself. Around that time, the security arrived and an altercation between the officer and the owner of the car ensued. He was detained, the police arrived, and the guy that I maced and tased, as well as the owner of the car, were arrested. We pressed charges for breaking and entering, as well as assault to the guy who broke through our fence. He ended up getting a substantial fine and suspended sentence because the police added public intoxication and resisting arrest to his charges. He was hurling racist remarks to the police the whole time they were there, so some of it was probably unnecessary. The owner of the car got 18 months jail time because of the assault on the security officer, as he was not a first-time offender and had a couple of assault charges against him previously. Okay, who's not surprised about that? And we got a good story to tell, all over an inconsiderate parking. It's shocking how a situation can be escalated. If the guy had been nice about it, I would have even given him a ride to the towing company to retrieve his car. Seamus thinks that some people never learn their lesson, especially when it pertains to how to live in civil society. Me? Well, let's just say that I leave the pontification up to him. I do want to give OP and his dad a hand for defending their castle. Enough said. Let's get to the next one. This one's from Solitary Tea Party, and it's called I Get an Entitled Customer's Lunch. This was about 2 to 3 years ago. I was still working at a grocery store, and the store was located on a busy road with multiple restaurants and a mall within walking distance. As I had an hour for my lunch break, this gave me plenty of options if I didn't have time to pack something from home. So one day I decided to go to the restaurant that serves soup and a bread bowl. When I went in, there was just one customer in line in front of me, and just one cashier available. Not a huge wait, so not a huge deal. I waited my turn and got to hear a conversation that went more or less as follows. Customer: I'll have a bread bowl. Employee: Okay, we have one left. I was disappointed since I went there just for a bread bowl, but things like that happen, especially in a store with a lot of traffic. So I resigned myself to getting something else. Now, I don't know if the customer had a hearing issue or just had an issue with listening to anyone in any kind of retail setting, but the guy thought she said that they didn't have any bread bowls left, and he lost his mind. The customer says, "Are you effing kidding?" A full-on tantrum ensues. He's acting like he can magic a bread bowl into existence if he complains hard enough. He just won't stop, and he won't shut up about the bread bowl and how that is what he wanted. I'm about to step in and tell the entitled customer what the cashier actually said when he abruptly storms out, pushing through the doors and disappearing into the parking lot. There's a pause, and then the employee hides her "how is this my life" expression and turns to me. Employee: Hello, how can I help you? Me: I'll have that bread bowl, please, with chicken noodle. She looks at me, I look at her, then we both immediately started laughing. The cashier was really nice. I think we bonded a little over the customer drama. It was a time that I thoroughly enjoyed my meal at that restaurant. Seamus and I always enjoy it when the last story has a bit of humor in it. Or should I say, that one is funny, isn't it, B-boy? It's an inside joke. Until next time.